In the sprawling labyrinth of the Oronos space colony, orbiting a barren planet once ripe with promise, Harris lived a quiet life far removed from the colony's younger, more hopeful inhabitants. Its small, utilitarian apartment was cluttered with relics of a past era tools, old uniforms and faded photographs of Earth, a world he barely remembered. His only constant companion was Rascal, a sleek, agile mongoose that had been with him for more years than he cared to count. Rascal was more than a pet. He was a link to a life filled with purpose. Now seemingly out of reach in the twilight years of Harris's life, the day the power died, Harris was tinkering with an old communications receiver, trying to capture signals from the distant reaches of the galaxy. Rascal was perched on the windowsill, his keen eyes watching the artificial sunset programmed to mimic Earth's more comforting rhythms. Suddenly, the room plunged into darkness, the hum of the colony's life support systems falling silent. The artificial gravity wavered, sending loose items floating through the room. Rascal hissed, his body tensed for action. "Easy boy," Harris soothed, his voice a steady presence in the disorienting blackout. "Looks like we've got work to do." Save for Askanu, the colony's layout like the back of his hand, a remnant of days as an engineer responsible for maintaining the station's critical systems. With Rascal securely by his side, he navigated the darkened corridors, moving with a purpose that belied his age. His neighbors' doors were ajar, faces illuminated by the soft glow of emergency lights, fear and confusion written in their eyes. "Don't worry," Harris called out as he passed. "I'm heading to the power hub. We'll have this sorted in no time." The journey to the colony's power distribution hub was fraught with obstacles. The backup power was failing, plunging sections of the corridor into complete darkness. The only light coming from the bioluminescent patches on Rascal's harness, a modification Harris had made for just such emergencies. As they made their way, Harris couldn't shake the feeling that this was no ordinary malfunction. The colony's systems were designed to withstand much, from solar flares to the occasional asteroid strike. Complete power failure was unheard of, a fear whispered in the dark but never realized, until now. Reaching the power hub, Harris's suspicions were confirmed. The control panels were destroyed, their circuits fried beyond repair. This was sabotage, a deliberate act meant to cripple the colony. But by whom or what? Before he could ponder the question further, a chilling sound filled the air, a low, guttural clicking that seemed to come from the shadows themselves. Rascal bristled, his body coiled and ready to spring. Then the appears of nightmare, their bodies, a sickening blend of technology and organic matter, moving with a horrifying grace. Aliens, Harris realized, invaders from the dark void of space. The mongoose launched itself at the nearest attacker, a blur of motion that took the creature by surprise. Harris wasn't defenseless either. Years of living on the fringe of civilization had taught him to always be prepared. He wielded a makeshift weapon, a fusion of colony tools and his own ingenuity with a skill that belied his years. The battle was fierce, the narrow confines of the power hub turning it into a deadly dance of predator and prey. Harris and Rascal fought with a desperation born of the knowledge that the colony's survival depended on them. But they were outnumbered, the aliens relentless. Just when the situation seemed dire, a stroke of luck, or perhaps fate, turned the tide. Harris managed to activate the hub's emergency defense system, a network of automated turrets that had lain dormant for years. The turrets sprang to life, their lasers cutting through the invaders with deadly precision. The aliens retreated, but Harris knew this was only the beginning. The colony was vulnerable, its defenses exposed. They needed to act, and quickly, to secure their home against further attacks. With the immediate threat neutralized, Harris set to work restoring power to the colony. It was a monumental task, requiring all his engineering prowess and the assistance of Rascal, who seemed to sense the urgency of their mission. Hours turned into days as Harris worked tirelessly, repairing the damage, rerouting power, and fortifying the colony's defenses. Rascal was ever present, his keen senses alert to any sign of danger, his loyalty unwavering. When power finally surged back to life, illuminating the colony and bringing a collective sigh of relief from its inhabitants, Harris felt a satisfaction he hadn't known in years. He had saved the colony, but more importantly, he had proven to himself that he still had a role to play, a purpose in this distant outpost of humanity. The battle with the aliens was over, but Harris knew this was only the first skirmish in a war They hadn't known they were fighting. With Rascal by his side, he prepared for the challenges ahead, determined to protect their home against whatever the universe threw at them. As he looked out over the colony, now buzzing with activity, as life returned to normal, Harris felt a kinship with the old mongoose perched beside him. Together, they were survivors, guardians of a small piece of humanity in the vast, uncaring expanse of space. And as long as they stood together, Harris knew they would face the future with courage, ready for whatever came next. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you loved this story. If you did, be sure to leave a like. Hit the subscribe too if you'd like to continue adventuring with us. We need all the help we can get sharing our stories with the outside world.